Office Hours, a weekly live show brought to you by a team at Bunker Labs, national network of veteran and military spouse entrepreneurs dedicated to growing our ecosystem. I'm your host, the one and only IRON Mike Steadman, coming to you from the beautiful brick city of Newark, New Jersey, joined by my co-host, Amy Morrison, and our guest today, Laurel Shermonte. Did I get it right?
Very good, Mike.
Yeah. Shermonte and Clark, I'm going to butcher your last name, Clark, so go ahead and say it for me.
It's Clark Ewan.
Clark Yoon. We're going to be talking about the USAA Pitch Competition. We've got two veterans here that have gone through it, and we're going to have some good gals for you all. Before we do that, I'm going to pass it over to Amy to talk about any updates that are taking place in the bunker.
Thanks, Mike. So today we're going to talk about USAA Pitch, and that application for this year's competition is open. We're doing things a little different this year. There's only one event. It's in October, but you can check out bunkerlabs.org/USAA-pitch for all the information and to sign up to apply. We also have applications open starting this week for CEO Circle, presented by JP Morgan Chase Commercial Banking. So you can apply today to join the cohort of veteran and military spouse CEOs for our year-long program. So that's for larger scale, not starting out, but a little bit, larger scale businesses. But you can check out CEO Circle or bunkerlabs.org/CEO-circle for more information there. And then we're still promoting the two blogs posts that we have on the blog. So the Access to Capital blog post, and then we also have the Venture Capital from the Transition podcast. So you can check out those on the blog today or whenever. And that is it for this week.
Awesome. So now I get to pass it over to my guest. I want you guys to go ahead and introduce yourself. So Clark, we'll start with you.
All right. Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Clark Ewan, and I'm an Army veteran. I was an intelligence officer for 7 years. After I left active duty, I went to grad school and studied public policy and business at the Harvard Kennedy School and MIT Sloan, where I found my passion for entrepreneurship. Right before starting business school, I started a company called Candalytics, and we just recently rebranded about 6 months ago to Stitch 3D, and there's a story behind that as well. But yeah, just happy to be on the show, Mike.
Now, I met Clark right when he was getting out. I think it was, how soon had you gotten out when we met at Paul Capon's house?
Just a few weeks, actually. Yeah, it was summer 2019, met through Paul Capon.
Yeah, I remember you being bright-eyed, that fresh transition look, right? You were thinking about entrepreneurship. Next thing I know, I look up, man, you don't won the USAA Pitch Competition. I was like, Clark was getting after it.
Yeah, that was a great transition experience. Paul, as you know, is very active in helping veteran entrepreneurs. So having conversations with him, kind of helped me think about entrepreneurship as a possible career post-military.
Yeah, and what's cool about that is I actually got connected with Paul through the bunker. So that's why it's so important to have these ecosystems. Laurel, can you introduce yourself as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everybody. I'm Laurel Shermonte. I am the Chief Nursing Officer for Duality Systems. My husband and I started the company because we were trying to solve the scheduling problem that nurses run into, and we discovered that it's actually a way bigger problem than just nursing. So I'm an Air Force veteran, and I'm still an active reservist. I can retire in 2 years, so I'm sticking it out.
Congratulations. So how did you all find out about the pitch competition? What actually gave you the courage to apply?
I think I found out about the pitch competition through Facebook. I think I saw a post about it on Facebook. And at the time, we were at a point in our entrepreneurial journey where we were just trying to test out our narrative. We wanted to get the story out, and shape it and have it kind of tested against. So I was applying to quite a few different pitch competitions. The USAA pitch competition, however, that was the big one. If we could, tell our story to the folks at USAA and go through this rigorous process of, a written application, the regional pitches, and then eventually get to the finalist pitch. I thought that would really set us up in terms of, not only talking to customers, but also talking to eventual investors as well. So that was just something that I would really want to do to just be out there.
What about you, Laurel?
So I found out about the pitch competition through my husband, who actually was pitching. We were a very young company at the time, we still are, but I think we were just looking for opportunities to get out there and again, to Clark's point, test our narrative, work on, public speaking, and see if maybe we could help our monetary situation along the way. So they were just looking for anything we could do to get our message out.
That non-dilutive capital is so important, especially early on. But it's so foreign doing pitch comps when you think about our backgrounds in the military. Like, it's a skill set within itself, right? Learning how to put your deck together. You're stressing out about it, practicing your pitch, right? And it's one thing to do it virtual, but then you also got to be able to do it in person. And it can be super overwhelming. So your experience through pitching, I know you've probably done multiple at this point. What are some of the lessons you've learned that you would provide that you can share with our viewers today as they consider applying to the pitch competition themselves?
I would say have a strong support system, someone that is going to be brutally honest with you and tell you, practice with you and tell you how you can improve. But also don't be afraid to try. Nobody's going to make you drop you for push-ups because you misspoke, right? So take a chance and have folks there to back you up and help you out.
What about you, Clark?
I would say just tactically, number one, like practice. Like you should know your pitch like forward and backwards and have it memorized, and you should be able to do it in your sleep. But tactically, something that really changed for us was like before we were pitching from our presentation deck, and it was super busy, lots of text, lots of words, lots of number statistics. Just it was very, very busy slides. And then as I was going through kind of like the rodeo and doing lots of pitches, I realized that like when you're on stage and you're no longer doing it on Zoom, people are mostly focused on you. They're looking at you and they're listening to your story. So if you're distracting them with like a lot of words and numbers on the slide deck behind you, that could become like a very disorienting experience for the audience. So basically for the 100K pitch competition, I just had basically pictures on my slides. It was like, 3 or 4 pictures, and then I'm on to the next. I'm just telling a story at that point.
One of the things that I've noticed was I was on the outside looking in for the pitch comp. So I didn't apply, right? I was running the transition podcast. So I can't really speak to the experience of what it was like to apply and go through the whole situation, because it looks like they had multiple locations, right? They had it all over the country. And so you guys pitched what, 2 or 3 rounds, if I'm not mistaken?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Can you share some insight for people that are thinking about applying, what they can expect doing the pitch with USA?
Well, so for us last year, there was number one, a written application. You apply to a specific region, and it's just your standard business plan. You talk about how you're going to make money, what the problem is, what the solution is, who your customers are, and then you submit that. And then out of that pool of applicants, I think 10 were selected to go to a regional pitch competition, and that was a 5-minute pitch. It was live in person, and you just talk to the audience. For the finalists, for the final competition, they increased the time to 7 minutes to give you a little bit more real estate to work with in terms of like telling your story. But I thought the regional pitch competition was really great because you were meeting for the first time like other entrepreneurs, and this is coming right out of COVID. So for us, it's like I hadn't really seen another entrepreneur like in person. It's like you always see them over Zoom. So being able to have that in-person experience, not only with the other entrepreneurs but also with investors, with the USAA folks, that was a really cool experience.
And Laura, for you and your company, y'all were just getting started. Were you super nervous applying? I know your husband was like,
Yep.
Did the initial nudge and push and then handed it off to you for the second one.
Yeah, he was actually shocked that I watched the video of him winning the regional, and he was just like wide-eyed and like, are you kidding me? So when he handed off to me, he gave me good advice. Like, these are folks that can help you, and they're not there to bring you down. They're here to lift you up. So use that resource. I was super nervous. I think I even said that I was super nervous on the stage. And when I won, the president of USAA said, "Still nervous?" I was like, "Actually, yeah, still nervous." But it was a great experience and a really great way to kind of get our name out there and get started.
We've got a bunch of viewers tuning in. So if you guys have questions for Clark or Laurel, please go ahead and drop those in the chat. I want to make sure that we're able to get those answered. Now, outside of the bunker, right? What other programs have you participated in that help prepare you for the actual pitch competition itself? And, you know, for me, the first time I learned the framework of a traditional pitch was by going to Stanford Ignite for post 9/11 veterans. And so remember I said before, like, oh, pitching is a whole skill set within itself. So I would love for you all to share some insights on just like how you learn how to put together the deck and put together your presentation, et cetera.
Go ahead.
I would say the first resource is the PenFed Veterans Entrepreneurship Innovation Program. The folks over there, was when I joined the program, it was I think summer of 2021, and that was the first time where I was pushed by Seda and Aaron at the time, to really hone in on my narrative. They gave me some really good books to read and think about how do you present your startup. So that was the first resource, was just being tested by the folks at PenFed. Also being a student, I had a lot of access to resources from MIT. So the veteran or the venture mentoring services hosts mock pitch competitions where you can go and talk about your company, and they have investors there and former entrepreneurs giving you feedback. So just over the course of about a year and a half, I probably did 10 pitch competitions, some of them for prize competition, for prize money, but a lot of them just because I needed to work on public speaking and telling a story in a 5-minute time window that makes sense to people. So I would say just get yourself out there as much as possible, get lots of feedback.
And I think it's important you mentioned that you did 10 of them, and you didn't win all 10, I'm assuming, right?
No.
Yeah, it just comes with the territory, and it's and we've all been through it, but that's why I'm so big on people. You got to get out there and you got to try, because you're going to get better. The idea is that you improve upon each pitch. You get feedback from the judges, you get feedback from people in the audience and attendance, and you really get to start refining and honing your pitch. Now, what about you, Laurel?
For us, I think it was getting accepted to the cohort at Dream It Ventures. We must have gone over our pitch a million times, change this, fine tune that, go faster, spend more time here. They're more focused on healthcare type start, and that was where our target audience was at the time. So it was a fantastic resource for us.
I'm a huge fan of Dream It. I actually watch a lot of their content online on YouTube, so that's why I lit up as soon as you said it. Now, we've got a question from the audience. Utan Hernandez says, thanks for doing this. And he wants to know, is 5 minutes a normal timeline for pitching?
I would say no. It really depends on the format. I've done everything from a 2-minute pitch to a 10-minute pitch. So obviously, and I've also done a 1-minute pitch, where it's just a speed, what does your company do? But even going from 5 minutes for the regional pitch competition to 7 minutes at the finals, I think we had 5 months in between. But you have to really figure out okay, what am I going to use this extra 2 minutes for? So it's not wasted space and people aren't falling asleep because you have more time to speak. You have to fill it in with interesting material that actually aligns with the rest of the story. But no, I don't think 5 minutes is typical.
I don't think there's anything typical. Yeah.
One of the things I've noticed being on the other side of, you put out these pitch competitions or applications, everything comes and it's in spreadsheet form, right? So, you fill out the doc, what's your problem, what's your solution, et cetera. It's very hard to stand out in all that data, right? And yet you both did. And so just in terms of sharing your story written, right? How important is it for our viewers to understand, how to actually, because I know we said when we actually pitch, right? You're there on stage, you got less bullet points, you got less slides, but still you've got to make it to that point. So what are some tricks you've learned to really stand out on those spreadsheets to say, hey, this is a venture that I'm really interested in learning more about, or I think this one is a good fit for this next round?
I think a lot of it is knowing your audience, and a lot of, especially I think young companies have a standard pitch or a standard deck that they use across multiple platforms. And really you should probably fine tune that deck depending on who you're speaking to. So the same goes for writing that out. Know your audience and know what they're looking for, and speak specifically to what they're looking for.
One of the things I've implemented myself was, it's real easy to say, oh, I'm going to apply for this pitch program. And then you just fill the application out in 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And because you do it so quick, you don't actually go into detail explain anything, as opposed to putting the application on like a Google Doc, tweaking it, getting another set of eyes on, and then really refining it. Because you can tell on the other side of these applications, right, who took time to really try to share their idea and who just kind of rushed through it.
Yeah, I think for me, a resource that I found was really useful was Ben Graham's blog on how to apply to Y Combinator. Now we didn't apply to Y Combinator, but I read that blog and it made a lot of sense to me. And it was basically like, what are you building and who are you building it for? And don't use marketing speak. So don't like say we're going to unlock value for this population, some like esoteric thing that nobody really understands and really also conveys nothing. Just like put it into plain simple speak that like what you're building and why you're building it and who you're building it for. And I think as long as you can keep the message like pretty simple during the written application, then you can talk about like the superlatives during the pitch. That's when you can add a little bit more color and description around like, how you got the idea and all the other cool things that you're doing with the team and the product.
Yeah. I also think it's important to explain how you plan to use the funding from these different pitch competitions, because that's a question I see come up over and over and over again. So for you, Laurel, you got to that point of, how would you use the funding? What was your response?
So as a very young company, we're in that phase of entrepreneurship where it's month to month, and where how long is our runway? So for us, it was we were able to apply to HIMSS and go out to the big health informatics conference in Chicago. That's something that I think we probably wouldn't have had the funding to do without the pitch competition.
And what about you, Clark?
Well, for us, at the time we just needed we were looking for money from anywhere, whether it was applying for non-dilutive government grants, pitch competition prizes, getting pre-seed investors to invest in us. It was just to really that first $10,000 was just to build up a war chest so that we have optionality in terms of how we spend it. Whether it was hiring that next engineer or whether it was traveling to a conference. It was just like we needed money to just be able to do anything. And then obviously winning the $100,000, that enabled us to do quite a lot more, being able to hire like one more engineer and also plus a designer. So that was pretty critical for us. For a tech company like ours, like we were mostly just focused on product for the last 12 months.
And last question for both of you: where are you at now currently in your ventures? What are you focused on? Laura, I'll go to you.
We are just trying to get in a hospital. Not lots of marketing, lots of cold calls. It's been really rough since COVID. Hospitals have not had funding. It's been hard. So I think that's trying to get those customers is where we are.
And Clark?
Yeah, for us, we're coming out of private beta here in a month and a half. So launching that public beta mid-June. I think June 16th is the day that we have circled on the calendar. And just continuing to talk to potential customers. Right now we've acquired 12 beta users and just keep the pipeline building. And hopefully when we launch, we can just increase the momentum on that. It's
a grind, y'all, but y'all are in it. Y'all are inspiration, right? I appreciate you guys coming on to share your stories. And before we transition to the book recommendations, I do have a couple of announcements. So applications are open until I believe June 30th. So if you want to apply to the USAA Pitch Competition, please get your apps in. This is a great opportunity for some non-dilutive capital. And then Jonathan Hernandez wants to know, what's a good resource to find other pitch competitions? Check out the bunkerlabs.org blog. We put a monster list of all the pitch competitions across the U.S., from the Rice Veteran Pitch Battle to Military Influencer Conference, just tons of great opportunities out there. So check out this platform. Make sure you follow the Bunker Labs blog, and we'll keep you updated. All right, now we're going to transition to book recs. So I'm going to start with Laurel. Laurel, you got a book rec for our audience today?
Yeah, my book recommendation is for all of the nurse entrepreneurs, and it is Unconventional Nurse by Michelle Podlesny. She is a nurse entrepreneur and just has really helped me in my journey to becoming a nurse entrepreneur. It's not a road that many nurses follow.
Love it. What about you, Clark?
Yeah, this is a book I've actually shared with quite a few entrepreneurs, and also with Gabby Bell, who was I met at the Chicago Pitch Competition. But it's The Hard Thing About Hard Things. And it's a lot of things that I feel like you don't learn in business school. It's written by Ben Horowitz, so there's also some great insight into like his journey through being an entrepreneur and then becoming an investor afterwards as well. Just like learning about how to hire people, learning about how to fire people, learning about when to wind a company down. Like these are the hard conversations that happen every single day at a startup that you just don't learn about from academia.
Speaking of that, I think the hard thing for me to wrap my head around was just how much you feel like you're white knuckling it all the time. Like in the military, it's like a well-oiled machine. Everything is organized, et cetera, et cetera. And then when you're an entrepreneur, you just feel like you're making it up as you go every single day. But the longer you stay alive, the better you are at it. You know how to write your op orders in the Google Docs. You're putting your little Excel spreadsheets together. But I really like that book, The Hard Things About Hard Things. I need to go ahead and revisit it. My book rec for the week is Outlive: The Science and Art of Longevity by Peter Attia, MD. In the military, we pride ourselves on physical and mental fitness, but then you become an entrepreneur and what happens, right? You start putting all that stuff by the wayside. So we got to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves. And so really big fan of Peter Attia and what he's doing with his Drive podcast. So I want to check that book out, especially as I'm getting older. I was thinking about that today, y'all. When I was 23, hooking and jabbing as an infantry officer, sometimes I wonder what happened if I would have had that energy dedicated to the venture. Because it's different when you're older. We're not really trying to sleep on couches and bounce around. We got lives and just a bunch of stuff. And so it is definitely a grind. And I did an episode on the Transition podcast where we talked about this deployment never ends. So this deployment doesn't end. So whereas we're used to those 6-month sprints where you're an entrepreneur, 6 months, a year, 2 years, and it's just can feel never ending at times. I don't know if you guys can relate.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So as we close out here, any words of wisdom or encouragement for our viewers as they continue on their own entrepreneurial journey? And Clark, we'll start with you.
Specifically as it relates to pitch competitions, just get yourself out there. Public speaking is scary, but it's so necessary, and like being able to tell a story and get it tested against by the judges, by the audience, by investors in the crowd. That's free feedback. For me, that's like free advice, follow up on that, and then it helps you shape your narrative. Only good things can come out of it. And, if you win, you also get some money.
Awesome. And Laurel?
I would say if you have a solution to a hard problem, go for it. Find a strong team, put together a strong team and go for it. You don't have anything to lose.
Well, y'all, I appreciate you making time for our viewers today. Good luck on your own journeys. And for all our viewers, I want to make sure you check out the Transition podcast as well. We're putting out some great content to support you because, again, we know not everyone is in these New York City metro areas or metropolitan areas in general. And we want y'all to feel supported wherever you are. And so that's why we push this content, whether it's office hours or the Transition. And I also like to acknowledge our sponsors for the Transition, MetLife Foundation, for making it possible. Until next time, everyone, peace, love,